Hey guys, Tiffany Cosplay here, and I just wanted to do a quick video of how I made my Scarlet Witch costume from WandaVision. This is just how I made it. It's one of many ways. Hopefully it helps someone. Boots here as well, because I know we don't get a great look at them in the video. So yeah, I just run through how I made all of this, including obviously the pants here, which were modified. You've got the butt cape here, the waistcoat, the gloves, the corset top, and then up here, the crown. So that's just how it fastens at the back. Yeah, so I sort of briefly run through everything of how I made it all, and I just do a quick turn around so you can see it. So that's it there. It doesn't quite fit the mannequin. Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, just drop them in the comments below. Let me know if there's anything you want me to answer in more detail. I didn't capture quite as much footage as I wanted. I'm hoping to release an ebook soon. There's a full highlight story on my Instagram, so feel free to head over there and yeah, enjoy the video. All right, Hey guys, so I started with a paper template which I drew by hand, and then I heated up a couple of pieces of warbler. You could probably use any thermoplastic for this, normal warbler, just in the basic shape, and I wanted to do it two pieces stuck together just so it's a little bit stronger. Then with the template, I drew half, folded the piece of paper in half, and then actually cut it out so it is symmetrical both sides. And then I've transferred that onto my thermoplastic and I'm cutting it out. It is easier to cut through your warbler when it does have a bit of heat in it, which is what I've done here. And I shaped it around my own head when it obviously wasn't too hot, so please don't burn yourselves doing this. Then I've drawn the template on, and I'm just using clear packing tape. You could use painter's tape, it doesn't have to be clear or anything, but just so I can trace around the pattern that I've already drawn, so I'll be able to cut this out soon. So I transferred this onto paper so it's easier to deal with, obviously because the tape sticks to itself. So I did cut this out generally piece by piece, and these pieces I then transferred to thin craft foam. And I did it piece by piece and stuck it down to the crown piece by piece just so I could ensure I was lining it up properly. All my pieces were adhered with contact adhesive. So a couple of layers did sort of overlap and underlap, so I'd glued them down and just left the edges bare. So as you can see, I'm just working pretty much from the center across to the outer sides. Then I used a wood burning tool just to put the little detail lines at the side of the crown there. These are the paints I used, and these are the colors that I used. So I primed it with Flex Bond, then I painted the base in black, then I applied a coat of a red black paint, and then I mixed a red, sort of like a metallic-y red, so I did a couple of shades of red with a pearl red in there. And then as it was all still a little bit wet, I used a really fine brush just to mush the paint around on the lower detail portions, and the red-black layer actually came through with that quite a little bit. Then I put a coat of clear red over the top, and this is just the attachments that I've made. So that was just a couple of pieces of linen sewn, and then you just tie it at the back. how I did a template. I've used a corset as a base, and then I've done a duct tape or cloth tape pattern over the top. So I'm just tidying up my template, and then I'll be cutting that out and transferring this to fabric first. That's the skirt, that's the top. Just like a thick kind of scuba jersey kind of fabric that does have a bit of stretch to it. So that's the shape. So the front's at the bottom, the back's at the top there. That's just loosely pinned down. I've taken the zip out of the corset too, because obviously there's going to be no front closure. Now that same template I'm now putting onto foam, and that will go over the top of the fabric. This is just to ensure that the layer is the same height as the actual corset, so it's all smooth. There'll be no bumps or anything when it comes to doing the details over the top. This is contact adhesive. And then I'm gluing it all down. Make sure if you do use this technique, as always with contact adhesive, use respirators, have it in a well ventilated area. So as you can see, where it meets the corset, it's all one height now, so it's all smooth. And that is the base shape of Wanda's top. So now we're up to the detail. So again, I've done another duct or cloth tape pattern, only doing half because it should be symmetrical both sides. And then again, this one was really fiddly, but I did it piece by piece, working from the middle. So this is just foam, I think about 2 or 3 mil thick. So those darts are just to help it bend a little bit easier. So we're going to the next layer. So I did all of this in layers. Now this is the back of the foam. I've created a crevice in there, and that enables you to shape it. And then I actually fill the back of that with hot glue just so it holds its shape. And then let it dry. So at the front, you can see it's got that little bit of shape there. So I did the same with this front centerpiece. Add that same technique with cutting it at the back to give it that bend in the middle. And then I'm just using contact adhesive to glue it down. So this is the base layer. And then on the left side, there's a layer on top there. So again, I'm just working from the middle and out. So a couple of pieces I've covered in black ultra cream fabric. So these are the pieces that will be 3D painted. Folding the fabric over the edge so it's nice and neat. So the ones, yeah, they're the darker black pieces that you can see on the picture there. Now these are the pieces for the top. This one was really fiddly, so I just sort of worked from the middle out, piece by piece, gluing them in little bits at a time. It took forever. And now I'm priming it with Flex Bond. And the paint I'm doing here is the exact same as the crown. So I've got a black base, red black base, and I've mixed up the same pearly red. And then I just paint all of it. So a couple of pieces do have a slightly different color, so I mixed a bit more of like a purpley tone just for the very, very center pieces on the chest and in the middle of the torso. And then I painted the red stripes with the same red mixture. So that's what it looks like, all one color at the moment. And then this is where I've added a bit of a purple pigment. And now we're on to the lovely 3D printing. So I managed to find some 3D paint for about $2 a bottle. I did buy about 15 bottles, but I used nowhere near that. So this is very, very time consuming. There is a fabric by Parallel Life Studios, which is pretty accurate, but very, very expensive. So for me, that is probably something that would never be in my budget. and to get the texture as accurate as I could, this was the only way I could think of. So I actually lightened the red foam pieces a little bit. The Velcro there I ended up changing for a zip in the top. On the waistcoat it was fine, but on the top it just would not hold. So I would recommend popping a zipper in there as well. I've used clear wrap just to wrap around a pair of, these are just old wedge boots I had on hand, like they were super knackered. The same ducktail cloth tape. It's a tape that doesn't stretch, so that's important. Then I've just drawn the pattern by hand. I've cut out where the zip is on the boot, so I've kept the zip there, I haven't covered that. Then I'm just carefully cutting out my template. So for the other boot, you do the mirror of it. Sure fits, which it does. So these boots were really knackered, so I've actually glued down more sole on them. This was just rubber shoe sole I got from eBay for a pretty good price. I just cut it out and I contacted his adhesive. I glued it to the bottom of the shoes anyway. As you can see, they're pretty yanky under there. So yeah, that actually made the world of difference. They're really comfy now and I can walk in them. I'm sure there's shoe glue for this, but contact glue is all I kind of have. And then I just glue that down. If you walk in them in a little bit, it really mushes it onto the sole there. And any excess I just trimmed off the edge. That was the foam version of the white template there. These were the red stripes. That's just glue down ultra cream. The black was glue down ultra cream, and then anywhere that didn't have foam and fabric was puff painted in the exact same way as everything else that you will see to come. So that's the booties. The fabric covered in foam covered fabric was fabric covered foam, holy cow. That was just glued down to the boot. So for the buckle, I've just used scraps of warbler. I've rolled them into noodles and I've shaped it how I needed it. I did draw a template by hand, which should flick up shortly, I think. There you go. So I just used that as a guide and shaped my warbler noodles around that. I did do warbler noodles and I actually flattened them pretty much with straight lines. Yeah. Then attaching it all together. Up there, so I ended up pulling a couple of pieces off and putting them either front or behind something that I'd stuffed up. That's what the pattern that I drew was different colours, just so I knew what was in front of something else. But yeah, that was the finished buckle there. So then it just got primed with Flex Bond again, and then painted black, which you'll see soon. And then these are chrome textures. So I just coloured it in with one of those and then it was done. Liquid chrome for those who want their own. template at the same time I did the template for the upper portion, which we saw earlier in the video. So this is again just half. I've transferred it to foam, glued the two pieces together, and now I'm gluing the whole lot to black ultra cream fabric. Folding over the edges just so it looks neat and tidy. The actual bulk pieces, I do use spray contact adhesive, so that is another option too for big pieces like this as well. And that's pretty nice and dirty. So now I'm making a template for the upper layers. So again, just half because it'll be mirrored on the other side. So these are all my pieces. So again, I'm kind of doing these piece by piece. Some just get left as foam, and then just drawing on each side where the pieces need to be glued down. This is a piece that I'm transferring to foam, and then I'm mirroring it, flipping it over the other side. Contact adhesive, gluing it down. Then it's another layer on top of it like this. So that upper layer that was just white a second ago, and you can kind of see it now. That was foam covered in ultra cream fabric again and then glued down. So I did make my front bit a little bit wide. Yeah, I wasn't going with a lot of reference pictures at this point. And the back is just a Velcro closure, so that back centerpiece tucks under, as you can see here. On one side it will get glued down, and the other side it gets Velcroed under. And then this is the 3D paint again and again. It never ends on this costume. Booty cape. I really don't know what else to call this because I kind of feel like it's not really a skirt, but this is a nice thick flowy weighty jersey fabric that I had on hand. So I've got heat and bond here that's meant to be like the ultra hold, and I'm using the Yayahan liquid leather pleathery stuff. This is horrifying because I didn't know if I could iron directly onto this fabric because it's very, very shiny, very, very sticky. It took me ages to figure out how to get this stuff to stick. So I only did it this way because I didn't want any visible stitch lines. So yes, you can use an iron on this fabric, but you cannot slide it. You have to press it up and down because it will not slide, it's too sticky. So I did figure out to put the heat and bond on the back of these really messy strips first, and then actually cut the excess edges off so I had nice straight lines. So yeah, that's what I'd recommend doing for that, because my first stripe was a pretty wobbly little stripe there. Then you peel off once it's cooled down, so that's your now adhesive side, which gets ironed on. So as you can see, I left this in here so you can see how hard this actually was. It just getting it to stick or to heat up long enough that it stuck to the fabric but didn't damage the shiny stuff. That was a challenge. But we got there in the end. You iron the top, then you iron the back, then you can iron the top again if you want. It's held up to yet. Whether it will need stitching at some point, I'm not too sure. So yeah, once all the stripes were on and the edge, it's back to our beloved 3D painting. So this is it in real time, just so you can see how long it actually takes. And all my paint I did put into this really fine tip bottle. It gave me a more precise line, but it's very hard to squeeze through the bottle. So if you're doing this, just be mindful that it's probably going to kill your wrist, so have breaks. This was a monstrosity of a piece. As you can see here, my hand is shaking. I've got a wrist brace on. My wrist is fine now, but just if you do it this way, be careful, be mindful, look after yourself. And yeah, you don't have to transfer it into a really fine needled bottle like this. It's just, I wanted that extra precision. I think I could fit about 4 bottles of the 3D paint into one of these new bottles. And I only filled that bottle up probably, I think 3 times, and I didn't even use all of it the 3 times for the whole costume. So yeah, it was probably $20 in 3D paint all up. So yeah, definitely a much cheaper alternative for those that want a little bit more accuracy. This is the finished booty cape. You can kind of see how it flows. On the video at the start you can see it a little bit better. The pants. Now, those who follow my work know that I'm really not a pant maker. It's just something I can't figure out. So I just thrifted a pair of black jeggings, which, yep, they are full of cat hair right now. We have ragdolls here. So pretty much the foam I loosely sewed down to the pants, and then I've covered my foam strips in Ultra Prime again, the same way, just with the contact adhesive, and I glued it down. And I use this technique because foam sticks to foam much easier than it sticks to fabric. So I did glue it to the fabric, and then I sewed it to the fabric, and I've glued the foam straight to the foam, and I didn't want any visible stitch or seam lines here, which is why I've done it that way. So that's all the red stripes down, and then the silver is done the exact same way, just fabric over foam. Then I cleaned the pants of all the cat hair, and I'm back to 3D painting, but this time in black. And when you're 3D painting, especially on stretched fabrics, make sure you have it on something where it's slightly stretched. It does have a bit of stretch to it, but yeah, it's just something you want to do. So I do gloves a really easy, probably cheating way, I'm not too sure. I just trace around my arm, give yourself space around your arm. This is a stretch kind of fabric. Then I sew it and then make sure it fits. So I actually stitch it loosely by hand before I sew it, just so I can check it fits. And always make them longer than you think you're going to need, because, I don't know, whenever I make gloves and they're really, really long, they do not end up that long. Because you can always cut off the excess. So I did sort of like backstitch and everything, but I always tie knots at the end because I'm never convinced it's going to stay. So I did create some foam covered in fabric, which I ended up ripping off. This was the same technique that I did for the pants. So I've glued foam down to the fabric, then I sew it, and then I have more foam covered in fabric which gets glued over so there's no visible seam lines. Again, I wasn't working with any references at this point, so when I had a better look at the gloves, I hated that massive piece of foam I put on the hand, and I ripped it off, which luckily it turned out okay. Yeah, when you're putting your foam on as well, make sure that it is stretched. And yes, I put way too much glue on there, I did take it off. Yeah, so this is again the same method of foam getting covered in Ultra Prime fabric for some stripes. More stripes, and I used the same shiny liquid leather for the stripes on the gloves, just so it tied in with the booty cape. So that's one that's starting to get 3D painted. So again, just a little close up of how I'm painting it. Sped up, obviously, because I wish it was that quick. Anyone who's 3D painted probably wishes it was that quick too. So that was a finished glove, but I was really undecided. That red piece of foam just looked weird. It wasn't accurate, and it just looked, in my opinion, it looked, I didn't like it. So that was after I ripped it off. Luckily the fabric was okay, so I just puff painted it. So this was just a movement before I actually got the colour in and nothing was glued down, but just so you can see how it all moves, and that was how I knew everything fit. And then this, it wasn't quite finished here, and I have changed the wig since, which I'll put some photos at the end so you can see it, but that's how it all moves. So hopefully that was helpful. Yeah, enjoy. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching my video on how I made my Scarlet Witch costume from WandaVision. Hopefully it was helpful to at least some of you. If you guys do use this to make your own, please tag me. I'd love to see it and give it a share in my stories. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like, subscribe if you want. You don't have to, it's totally cool. Until the next video, I'll see you guys later. Bye. Thank you all.